Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to this week's edition of Imperial One's Belonging series, where we explore the lived experiences of individuals from the Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities. It's a big pleasure for me to have a really special guest with us today. And our guest is Dr. Rowena Wang. And Dr. Rowena is a EDI. She's got so many different hats and she's done so many different things. I don't even think that the title which I've got here even partly reflects what she does. But currently she's an EDI project coordinator, an evaluation project manager for the School of Medicine at Imperial College. So Rowena, it's really nice to have you here with us today. And I'm going to start off by going with my usual first question, right? Which is, can you tell us, as you were growing up, what it was that gave you your sense of belonging, your sense of identity as you were growing up? Thanks.
Thank you very much to invite me to this platform to introduce myself. And also we have a short catch up last Wednesday this week. And you really inspired me to think about the sense of belonging and where I grew up. I grew up in Taiwan, and it's really very homogeneous society. But now the society is changing. Taiwan, now there are lots of migrants from all over the world to Taiwan now. For example, in my family, we have a helper who is from Indonesia. We have a lot of communities who are from either Europe or US, who live in Taichung, where I grew up. But later on of my life, I came to UK to study my PhD, and I finished my PhD at the University of Warri Business School. So I start my academic career being a research fellow, teaching fellow at different universities, such as Judge Business School, Warri Business School, and London School of Economics. And at the beginning of 2012, I moved with my husband and a very little child, which was only less than 3, and moved from Cambridge, UK, to Wellington, New Zealand, and we lived there for nearly 8 years. Yeah. And I actually got a New Zealand citizenship. So if you would like to call me as a Kiwi, I think I'm very happy to be that. So when the time we spent in New Zealand, our first year, I working at the Victoria University of Wellington. I was a teaching fellow there. I taught postgraduate students. I also taught the last year of undergraduate students at a business school. So later, I was found by headhunter to work for the Ministry of Maori Development, focus on Maori culture, focus on Maori economic development, and so I work at a research and evaluation team and provide advice and also research and evaluation for the business and economic department. And working directly with the director of economic and business development team. So we're trying to help the Maori people to build up their own communities. For example, build up their own small, medium Maori business, and also trying to help them to rebuild their regional economic development, to provide advice to the Minister of Maori Development.
All right.
Yes, and then 2019, again, my husband got a job offer, then decided to come back to London. So my son and I, we were the last two to return to the London in end of October, just literally 6 months before lockdown.
Right.
Yes. So then I'm working with a kind of friends on the construction business and working on the projects. And also then later I said, I would like to return to academia. So I'm looking for the post. Then I found Faculty of Medicine would be nice because during the lockdown period, despite I had a title as a doctor, but I'm not a real doctor. I could not help I cannot do frontline kind of healthcare during the COVID period. So I said to my family, I would like to work with a medical professional. So that when I found this job, especially EDI related, I was so pleased because I have so much to offer, not only for my personal background, my Maori cultural economic background, also my transferable skill from academia. So this is all about me.
Wow,
so,
that was a whistle-stop tour. I'm going to just backtrack a little bit. Just backtrack a little bit, just to find out a little bit more about, when you were growing up, and what was it that inspired you to want to go into business, or to pursue the studies which you did? Because you did all of your studies in Taiwan. Were there any barriers? Did they say, "Oh no, you can't do that," or "You can't do this"? What was it like for you there?
In Taiwan used to be really very more reserved traditional society when I grew up. Especially I grew up in a small town. My parents, they have their own pharmacy.
Right.
So my father is a pharmacist. My mom used to be a nurse. And let me share with you, my father's side, they all from the Chinese medical background. So my grandparent from father's side, he's a Chinese doctor. So in Taiwan, in some of the traditional pharmacy, they have a Western pharmacy as well as Chinese medicine. So that's how I grew up, and I grew up in a very small town, but everyone knows my families. So it's kind of, you always, when you're walking on the street, everyone will say hello to you, or you will be watched. So you have to be careful about your behavior. For example, let me give you an example. It would not allow you eat on the street. So you eat and walking. This is not allowed.
Right. Okay.
For example, if you talk to a boy from your class, then before you get to your house, my parents will already knew about this news. Rowena was talking with a boy on the street. And I remember one time I was so curious about the Christians. So I went to church on the road. Before I went home, everyone knows I went to church, told my parents, because my parents, they are Buddhist.
Right.
And then I just had to explain to them why I want to go to church and why I want to know about different religions.
Right.
So this is the culture we grew up, very community-based, very Buddhist values. And to be honest with you, inclusion wasn't in their mindset.
Right. Okay.
I have to say, it's really difficult if you are not Taiwanese at where I grew up, or it's quite difficult. You can get involved into the community, but people treat you very nicely. Right. They will treat you very nicely. They will welcome you. But if you want to get into the heart, to be the center, it will take a while.
Right.
Yes. That's where I grew up.
Right. So it was, as you said, it was quite conservative in the approach and the things which they would expect you to be able to do, and allow you to do. And there was almost like a town whispering. Everybody would know what you've done very quickly.
Exactly. Serious. So when I turned 18, I got my university. When I put my university preference, I chose capital city, which is far away from my parents. I will become nobody. Of course, I have a family, relatives live in Taipei, but at least no one will care about what I'm doing on the street, what I'm doing in the church, or where I go for, or where my religion is like. Yeah. With a young age, because I left home around 17, 18. Yeah. That's small communities. So I just would like to know more about religions. I don't want, because I'm really totally black sheep among the small family. I have 2 elder brothers, 1 elder sister. I'm the youngest one among the family. And my father again, he's the youngest one in the family. And they have 6 or 7 siblings. And every time they have a big one family's gathering, I am always the center because I'm the youngest one. So it's really a lot of pressure on me, honest with you. So I would like to go away once I have a chance. And I did find my chance. Not only go away, I flew away, far away from the hometown now.
Right. So having flown away from home, what was it that kind of like inspired you to do the studies? What did you study at university?
Yes, my family has a business in the community in that town. Really, we have how many relatives they are running the medical Chinese medicine pharmacy. And also my father is running Western pharmacy because he's a pharmacist. So I said to them, I will run a business management. I'm going to manage you all. So that's why I into business management, which really my intention is to focus on kind of pharmaceutical or Chinese medicine management, business management, import business or help them to run their business because I think they are not efficient at all.
Okay. So I see was there any pressure on you to say, because it sounds like a lot of your family, as you said, was into pharmacy, medicine, and was there pressure for you to follow the family tradition to say, go into kind of like medically related activities? Or were you free to say, okay, I'm going to run the business. You guys can do the medicine. I'll run the business.
You know what? Thank goodness I'm the youngest one. I have been rebellion since I was a child. Since I can talk, maybe. Because I remember my mom used to say I was so talkative. If I'm not home, house is really quiet. Once I get home, the house is like a supermarket, so noisy. So that's why I made ambitions. I want to run a business and management, to be a consultant or being the chief executive within the family business. But it wasn't allowed me to do because everyone have a different view. So I said, okay, I will show you what I can do. Then I will come back when I have the abilities.
Yeah.
So during the process, trying to convince them and trying to find my own fit is not easy, especially I'm the youngest one. Also, I'm a female rather than male. In that conserved family, traditional type of family, I think they really do care about male more than female. Yeah. So I have to approve myself. So they care about education. They have a lot of influence by Confucius. So I said, okay, I will get a PhD, then the highest education I can get. Once I get, you guys will put your mouth shut. But actually not. They will say, where are your work experience? I want to see you have been working in a big pharmaceutical company. So they have non-stop expectation. Then I realized that enough. I will do whatever I want.
That's amazing. So you were trying to prove, almost like feeling like you had to prove yourself. But even when you did get to the highest educational standard, there was still more that they wanted you to do. Okay. How you said earlier on about the fact that being the youngest, you felt there was a lot of pressure on you. Yeah. And to some extent you kind of like rebelled, right? How then would you say that you're viewed within your family?
I always the one who always said very think and always predict something happened. So, but because I'm youngest one, so they never take my words seriously. And so how I'm going to do, I have to prove it. I have to take into actions instead of talking. But that's realized quite later on when I got into university. So each time in the holidays when I went home, I just have to wait for my brothers to talk, to tell my parents, and then I will say something, kind of throw up a bomb into their conversation, and then I walk away. So they were just really, I always had to behave like that. So they always think me like I'm really totally black sheep. I always bring in different view into their conversation.
So you were the agitator. You were the one who said, you know, we have to think slightly differently. We can't just think in the same way that we've done things before. We must think slightly different. Yeah.
Yes, I always remind them. For example, I said a long time ago when computer on the market, I said we need to computerize our business. You can't just rely on manually. It's really hard job. And no one listened.
Wow.
And this time I went home in April. I said, now it's AI era. When you guys are going to rely on these computers, trying to do something change, make some change. But I now I don't talk too much, don't really spread a lot of you to my brothers or my parents. I start kind of inspire my nephew and niece. And I try to encourage them to study abroad. But one thing, good thing is, after I received my PhD and brought them a lot of views, they really encourage my nephew and niece to study abroad, which is really what I have done the most contributions. So honest with you, my nephew and niece told me, Auntie, even though they really think that you are a rebellion one, but at least you made our life happier. You really brought some kind of hope into this family.
Again, you're changing the viewpoints. You're helping to change the viewpoints. That's brilliant. So when you came abroad, so you came abroad to do your PhD, yeah? And you did that in what? How did you find that transition from to coming overseas? What was that like as an international student?
As an international student, I have to say it's not easy, especially you study as a PhD, because it's permanent head damaged process. It's a isolating, it's a lonely process. But one thing you can do, what I have done, and then I really encourage all the international students to do so, is trying to participate more society. For example, I'm original from Taiwan. Participate in the Taiwanese student society. Participate in the international. They have international students welcome party. For example, I participate a lot of Thai society activities. For example, I participate in the Greek society, trying to know more people. And then also just don't be afraid to tell them what you need help from. For example, at that time, my English wasn't that good, still not that good, not as good as a native speaker. So I will try to make friends with them. I will try to speak English to them and ask them, please just feel free to correct my English. And also, when I had a problem at the beginning with writing my ideas in a very comprehensive and succinct way, I ask the people to review my work before I submit it to my supervisor. That's how I get kind of work my way to finish my PhD. Have I kind of responded to your question?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I was going to then say, based on what you've just told me, it sounds as though you are very proactive you've been proactive all the time. You're always stretching the boundaries. You're not afraid to ask the questions.
I'm not afraid of making a mistake.
Okay.
And I don't feel shame or I don't feel embarrassed. I'm very brave to say it. I will apologize. Let me give you another example. When I worked at the Ministry of Education, I was very brave to attend all the different kind of executive level. Thanks my senior manager. He took me every meetings. And one sentence he gave to me before I left my job to come to UK. He said to me, Rowena, you are very brave. I really admire your courage in every single meeting. You raise your voice, you ask the questions, and the questions are all very thoughtful. So I think what I learned from this journey from Taiwan to UK to New Zealand is don't be afraid of you are different from them. But when you ask the questions, to be polite, to remain your core value, and then as well as respect their value, and then I think your voice will be heard at the end.
That's brilliant. That's such a powerful message about not being afraid to ask the questions, yeah, and being brave. And sometimes it's not even about being brave. It's just about, you know what, I don't know. I need to know. Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes I just said it. I'm sorry. I have this kind of dark skin and black color, and I don't know the culture or the way you're doing things. So please, can you tell me how can I make myself to be part of it, and
Yeah.
as well as to contribute my additional knowledge where I may not same as you guys. Just set it out. And sometimes, to be honest, one good thing is my education from Taiwan and the UK really helped me a lot, as well as my experience in New Zealand really helped me kind of blend me to a person which is more comprehensive, also to be more kind of loving kindness to everyone who are from different backgrounds. So same as my parenting style to my son. By the way, I have to say, I met my husband at the University of Cambridge. He's originally from Turkish Cyprus side. So at home, we raised a mixed boy who is half Cypriot, half of Taiwanese.
Yeah.
He was born in Cambridge, United Kingdom, and grew up in New Zealand until nearly 10, after 10. And so he got confused his identity. He asked me so many times where he actually from. He asked me, is he a British? I said, yes, because you have British passport. He asked me, is he a Kiwi? I said, yes, you are Kiwi because you have a New Zealand passport. Is he a Cypriot? I said, yes, you are Cypriot because you have Cyprus passport. Are you a Taiwanese? I said, yes, you are Taiwanese because he has Taiwanese passport. So basically, I told him, you are international citizens.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I was gonna ask you, but you've summarized it in your son, right? Because I was gonna ask you about the fact that you'd moved from Taiwan to the UK, then you moved from the UK to New Zealand. So those international journeys which you and different societies which you've existed in, right? All of them having different things which you can take from. Yeah.
Yes.
So
yes. You know that when I was the first kind of island hopper from Taiwan to Coventry,
yeah.
Warwick Business School, University of Warwick, I really reflect a lot, especially study PhD. Buddhist teaching really helped me. A lot of time I really kind of struggling to put myself into literature review to find how can I make a really significant contribution into my area. So the only way is meditations. I have a different type of meditation. I also joined the Buddhist Society at the University of Warwick, and I kind of made a lot of friends, and then we really discussed a lot of Buddhism or Buddhist philosophy, or if you like, Buddhist teachings. And it really helped me to find out actually there's no difference between different ethnic backgrounds. You all have nature of a human sense being. So you all have your desire, you all have your need, you always have your thoughts. But because where you grow up will influence how your value, how your core thoughts has been established or formed. But if you keep reflecting yourself, actually, you will find there's a really common ground. People are all kindness. They would like to be respected, and they would like to be involved. They would like to be a part of community or part of the group. So I'm working on the EDI issues and also a lot of projects in the faculty of medicines. I really feel like this really need to be not only just advocating in a different area, also need to put into practice. And I can see how the school of medicine, how they do it. For example, the way they talk to the patient, how they train the doctors to have more wider views and to understand actually that where you grow up, they have different way of looking at the medicine and also disease, and how you're going to translate that into your training. So they are doing it.
That's fantastic. It sounds like, I was thinking about the role that you're currently in, but also the roles that you're currently in have been so well defined and dictated by the previous roles which you've occupied, especially when I think about, as we talked about, that kind of like international globe travel that you've been experienced. In New Zealand, when you were working with the development of Maori culture, the Ministry of Maori culture, what was that like when you're talking about the indigenous population, but the indigenous population are in a minority? What were the kinds of things which you were learning and gathering from that experience?
Let me give you some background about, I'm the only one Asia group within the Ministry of Maori Development.
Right.
And I think there are only maybe 10 people are European New Zealanders. So majority of them are Maori. And I work in the headquarters, which is based in Wellington, New Zealand. And they have a regional office as well. And in total, we have somewhere around North Island and South Island, I think around 600 staff, 600 to 700 staff. So what I have been trying to do is trying to use evidence, especially statistic analysis. I'm trying to find all the evidence from all over the world, because indigenous people, not only Maori, for example, Finland, for example, Canada, even in Taiwan. So so I use the evidence to show and to provide the policy change or provide some kind of policy recommendations. That's the only way to try to let them kind of blow up their view, and not only from look at the evidence, also look at what the problems are happen within a Maori society. And then trying to work through with the experts, trying to understand and trying to solve the problem. And then we will provide the policy, a recommendation or a piece of policy to the minister. And then we will try to work from that. And then once policy has agreed by the minister, we will work with the regional office. So for example, I went to regional office, I gave a presentation on how the Maori's population is changing. So basically Maori population was increasing. So we predict by the 2025, there will be 25% of Maori people within the living in New Zealand. So what kind of strategy we need to change? For example, what kind of career we can provide and employment opportunities, housing issues, especially health. Health is the main issues for the Maori peoples.
Because that was a question I was going to ask, which when you were looking into these, because it sounds to me that one of the things, a key role was about gathering data, understanding the conditions, the experiences of the Maori people, and from there, as you said, making strategy, policy recommendations, etc.
Yes, I would like to add more, because if we can share this YouTube a video to more wider communities. Most PhD students will think we should stay in academia. I have to tell you, you should open your view. Public sectors will welcome you because you have a research skill, you have analytical skill, you have you can build up the argument between different literature review, which means you can build up the arguments, or you can find a problem from different policies, or you can see what the problems within the current policy, how you can improve upon. So that's how I found my feet very quickly when I work as a government agencies. And so I provide the knowledge now from my academia background, and then looking more practical ways is looking at what the problem within the current policies or within the current issue among the communities. So you have to talk to the advisors. You have to talk to the people who work on the front line, for example, in the regional office, trying to understand and trying to use on kind of evidence-based, can be quantitative data, can be qualitative data. And this will kind of form your argument, form your recommendation more sound and more robust.
That's amazing. And just in all of that, then, when you compare your experiences from New Zealand, from Taiwan to the UK, what are the kind of where have you gained your sense of identity, sense of belonging from these different areas?
To be honest, when I was growing up in Taiwan, I never thought about sense of belonging, sense of identities, because we are homogeneous societies, and it's all because where you grow up and what's your education, where's your family background, and from the way I behave, people can guess what kind of background you are. But once you come abroad, sometimes the language is a barrier. Sometimes the cultural understanding can be a barrier. So then I think the core value I have is Confucius and Buddhist, which is respect, seniorities, which is loving kindness, compassion, which is manner, always a good manners. So this is all core values I have. But also, I think I try to build up my connection, my network with not only within my Taiwanese society, also I built a very good relationship with my supervisor. He went to my wedding, he gave a speech in my wedding like my father. Confucius has once said, one day being your teacher, he or she will become your father for all your life. Okay. So I'm still really, I'm really thankful to my supervisor. He has been really helpful along my PhD journey. And even though after I finished, I went on the career at the Judge Business School and London School of Economics. It really kind of, we still keep in touch, and also we kind of work on the paper together. And as well, I invited him to go have a seminar at London School of Economics when I was working there.
So it's kind of like people have helped you to gain your sense of identity, sense of belonging, especially when you've been away from, as you said, the homogeneous society where everyone, you didn't need to even think about sense of identity because you knew this is how you were. Yeah.
Yes. And not only that, I think it's through from living in so many countries, and you are kind of reflecting and thinking about the differences between different countries, for example, England and New Zealand and Taiwan. And what I can, using my skill set, also use my as a person, how can I contribute to the societies? For example, when I just went to New Zealand, I tried to be volunteer into a preschool, into the different kind of societies. And I even joined one of the ethnical young leadership training. I got selected. So in my second year when we moved to New Zealand. And so I think it's 2014, and the government has a scheme called Young Ethical Leadership, Female Leadership Training. And I got selected, and I met a lot of people from all over the world. And then we share some common similarities, and we share some of really kind of understandings and also differences as well. And we respect each other. So during my time there, we just being a friends.
That's brilliant. That's really good to hear. And those friendships have lasted.
Yes. From time to time, because the time difference. Now it's about 11 hours difference. In the winter time, it's 12 hours difference.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but it's interesting that when you do find those friendships, it's almost as though when you're transported back, even though you may not have seen someone for many years, yeah, it's
Yes,
reconnect. It's like
yes,
we're never apart.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely, yes.
Yeah.
I think when you find the common ground between different type of ethnic backgrounds,
Mhm.
and you will have the similar language to talk,
Mhm.
and you will build up the same language between you all, even though you all from different ethnic background, different countries. But
Mhm.
it doesn't matter
Mhm.
because you know. For example, we were into reading the books.
Mhm.
For example, we were into kind of discussion about education.
Mhm.
We were having a discussion about building up your own skill sets.
Mhm.
How can we make contributions to the societies?
So let me ask one kind of like a couple of questions. If anyone else has any questions that they'd like to ask, just raise your hand and I'll come to you, right? But I was just going to ask a question with regards to the role that because you've had such a varied experiences, and now you're working in the kind of like in the sector of EDI, equalities, diversity, inclusion, right? What do you see as being the major challenges that you face, and any solutions that you may have for helping people to gain their sense of belonging?
I think for most people I work with for the EDI projects, they all are education fellow based on the School of Medicines,
Mhm.
and they have medical doctors a title as well, also degree.
Mhm.
And I realized that coincidentally they are all from different kind of ethnic backgrounds, but they grew up in UK.
Mhm.
And we have a discussion that we found a challenging part rather than different kind of ethnic group is mainstream. They have hold the value and their own self-interest, and they have dominated the society because here is British culture, but now the original British culture. But now the society has been changing, evolving.
Mhm.
The UK society is more diverse than before. So being a doctor is
Mhm.
not only show your professional knowledge, then you have to show your understanding, your loving kindness to your patients.
Mhm.
But they found there's a really challenging between the junior doctor and the senior doctors.
Yeah.
So senior doctor, mainly male, and white dominate societies.
Mhm.
How they then kind of hear your voices, how they really respect. It really take time to change, but we are doing it. And I think everyone at the School of Medicine are trying very hard to change this
Mhm.
phenomenon. And
Mhm.
I can see this will be changed in near future, very soon.
So how are you affecting change, I suppose, is the next question there. Because I hear what you're saying, because you're saying the dominant class, but then what is it that's effecting real change to happen?
Then you will be the top, for example, the head of school,
Mhm.
Amias, he is a refugee,
Mhm.
and he really a successful examples. And really, we have one project called Our Stories, welcoming students and the staff to
Mhm.
talk about their own story to share. And we were broadcasting for not only within the Imperial College community, also outside.
Yeah.
So hopefully, we invite different people to share that we will kind of slightly change and gradually change the societies. And also, we really have to advocate more successful case and successful stories as well as projects. So we are going to we at the moment we focus on learning and teachings,
Mhm.
and we have done the projects. And next year now we're going to evaluate and implement this into learning and teaching, into the year 1 to year 6 curriculum design, curriculum also implement the curriculum into the each lecture and tutorial time as well.
Mhm.
Have I respond to your questions?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I like this idea about, so again, it's about the way that you said as a solution is about sharing our stories, so that people have to be willing to listen to hear what other people's experiences are. If you're
Yes.
going to make a change, we have to be able to listen to each other. Yeah.
I really think open-minded is the key.
Mhm. Mhm.
Always welcome different voices, always welcome differences.
Yeah. Not to see them not to see them as barriers, but to see them as what can we learn from each other.
Yes, I
Yeah.
totally agree with you. Now, I think not only what can we learn from each other is we are all live in the one earth.
Mhm.
We would like to make this society better and better each day
Mhm.
because everyone have a limited life journey. And but this earth will pass on to our next generations. And I think everyone would hope next generation's life will be much better and much equal and much more diverse and inclusive than now, isn't it?
That's right. So I like what you're saying there in terms of thinking of it in a much more holistic and long-term view, in that what would you like to have received coming into this world, as it were? What would you like to pass on to the next generation? Because otherwise, if we're killing each other, or if we're at loggerheads with each other and we're in war in fractions, then there's no sense of humanity that we can draw upon and say, this is the best of us. Instead, we often see the worst of us.
I think the best way is don't stop communicating each other's differences and similarities. So
Mhm.
always open a dialogue.
Mhm.
If there's no dialogue, for example, then there will be dangerous risk happened.
Yeah.
So and allow for different voices to happen in the society.
Yeah.
And be open-minded. You can be an active speaker, but
Mhm.
also be an active listener.
Yeah.
Why are you at the same time? And now we have AI, we have social medias, we have all the internet. I think we all have always be positive, be kind, to respect everyone from everywhere.
I love that. I love that statement. You can be an active listener or active speaker, but you must also be an active listener. I think that's a beautiful way to phrase it. I'm going to kind of like come to to the last couple questions, right? And it's kind of like a two-header. So the last question, which I want to explore with you for now, anyhow, is the idea of what advice would you have given to that young 16-year-old self who wanted to get away from home and be all rebellious? What advice would you have given to her? And then what do you think that young 16-year-old looking at you now would say, wow, this is what you've been able to do?
Yeah, I would not imagine when I was 16, I'm living in London now. I could not put my head around.
Mhm.
But I would say to my 16 years old, then don't dream big
Mhm.
and try to learn different type of languages. I really will.
Mhm.
If I can go back in time,
Mhm.
I was trying to learn different kind of European languages. Don't just too narrow-minded think about learn Japanese only. That's not enough.
Mhm.
And I would say trying to learn even different kind of Chinese, Taiwanese cultures, even trying to learn as much as you can.
Mhm.
And trying to bring all of that with you to carry on wherever you go. Be kind, be respectful, be a contributor,
Yeah,
and always be positive.
I love that. I love that. It's about what you can, not just what you can get, but what you can give to the society. I love that. I really do. Rowena, you've been a fantastic guest with us on Belonging. All right, and I know I'm going to have many more conversations with you. So I want to just say another big thank you for agreeing to be our guest today. I'm not sure if anyone else wanted to ask any questions, but really,
thank you very much for inviting me, Wen. Really love to meeting you in person in EDI college levels forum. I wish that forum carry on, and really that's the only way to really make the EDI work.
that's right.
From the university level, then we can spread out to the whole UK communities.
That's right. That's right. We need to be the leaders. Yeah. We need to be the leaders. We have to show how society can be. And it's,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So really want to say a really big thank you. And just
Thank you.
advertise what's coming up next week. And so next week, we're going to have Marianne Wicki, and she's kind of like the head of alumni relations at Imperial College Business School. She's a counselor, a coach, a life coach. She's done so many things, and she is a really fascinating individual. And she's going to be sharing her story with us next week. Also, on the 20th, in a couple of weeks' time, we heard her here first a few months ago, where she gave us a glimpse into her book, Hard Truth. That's Dr. Linda Ince Greenaway. She's going to be coming in person this time to our other event, which Imperial as One hosts, which is Meet the Author. So please come along and listen to her story, in the things that she wasn't able to tell us when she came on to the Belonging series a few months ago. And if you have missed any of them, then please do go to our YouTube site, which is at tinyurl.com/belonging-IAO. It's been a good year, and we've interviewed many people. Here are just the first few highlights. And you know what? I say this every week, and I really do mean it. And having listened to Rowena, she said that we have to be active listeners. And when we talk here on Belonging, I do listen. I do speak, but I do listen. And it's because people are so willing to share their stories that we gain better insight into what it means to belong in this society. So once again, have a good weekend, and I will see you again next week for Belonging.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a good weekend to everyone. Thanks a lot.